Twisted Wonderland is home to many a colorful character, and each of these lovely boys has a dedicated fan base, even Crowley. But what would happen if they somehow became aware of all of us Twist fans? Would they react with glee or with horror? Or would they remain indifferent to our affections? This was a question posed by one of our lovely Discord members, so I figured today I could provide my thoughts on the matter. To do so effectively, I am going to have to reference some individuals' stories, which means we will be talking about EN server story content, so consider this your spoiler warning. Now, I think it's only fair in a fan conversation to start with Grim, our little resident dire beast of Ramshackle Dorm, who is, of course, over the moon to find out that he has fans in an entirely different universe. Grim, on multiple occasions, has consistently said that he wants to be adored. He wants the attention. He wants the limelight. He wants to be a star. He wants to be on TV. I have no doubt in my mind that if Grim knew he had a dedicated fan base, he would be delighted, more than delighted, over the moon. Next up, we have Deuce, who I think would be very surprised that there were people out there rooting for him in the way that us fans do. Deuce does not seem like the type that wants attention, especially, definitely not in the way that Grim does. But he also doesn't seem like he's the kind of person that would shy away from it. He might be embarrassed a little bit, but he's not going to be mortified that someone out there thinks that he's cool, or that someone out there relates to his experience, right? I think that he would be surprised, but he would still enjoy it. So I think that he would go into the nice tier. I also feel like Deuce fans are very mellow for some reason. I don't really know why I have this perception of y'all, but you seem to be very level-headed, and I think that y'all would be respectful. So I think he would go solidly in the nice tier. Surprised, not mortified, not over the moon, just kind of in the middle. For Ace, though, how would Ace feel about this? I feel like Ace as a character likes to be recognized. However, he's also scared of that recognition because we see in his story the way that he wants to kind of have attention from certain people. He seems to get a little jealous sometimes of perhaps Grim and Deuce in the Heart Shackle group. But he also continuously pushes things away from himself. He doesn't want to take any responsibility. He doesn't want to improve his talents in a way that would allow him to succeed more. He tries to get out of his homework. He tries to get out of assignments. He tries to stiff Ruggie, even though he asked Ruggie to be cut in on a deal in his labware vignette. There are many instances where he is almost scared of his own potential. So I think that while Ace would like having fans, he would also kind of be scared of what that implies. I don't think that he would handle it super well. He would play it off in that vein. And I think where he's at now in the story, post book 7, where he's starting to kind of come into his own and recognize his own power and be a little less afraid of it and a bit more accepting of it, he might be able to handle it a bit better. But I still feel like he'd just be a little scared, just like a little scared. I think I'm gonna put him into nice because he would care. I think he definitely would care about the fact that he has fans. And I think that he would laud it over Deuce and he would try to compare numbers. Would probably be going back and forth in that regard. But I do think that there's a little bit of trepidation within him. So he's gonna go closer to the bottom of that tier. Riddle. I don't know what to do with Riddle in this specific scenario because I can see Riddle either being really excited to have fans or really scared. He is very set in his little box and in his little rules, but we do get to see him also be excited about certain things. He doesn't really know how to necessarily relate to people in the traditional sense. He has that leadership role and he's very good in that role. So I think if he were to get a handle on his fan club and he was able to lead it, he would feel a little bit more comfortable because it's a familiar role to him. And being looked up to in that way, I think is fine given his role as house warden. But to have a lot of people that just genuinely love him and it's acting more like a celebrity type interaction, I think that that might scare him a little bit because I don't know that he would understand like why y'all like him so much? Like, why are you fans of me? What is going on? What is happening here? Are you obeying the rules or not? I think he would have like way more questions than answers. And I think that that can be a little scary. But I think that that's just a Riddle thing. So maybe indifferent isn't the right word for that specific tier, because I do think that he would care, but I think that he would be questioning it more than being like, oh, that's cool, I got fans. So I'm gonna put him in indifferent, but it's not indifference specifically. I think he's just a little confused as to why. Trey, on the other hand, absolutely terrified. Now, the good news for Trey is that, to my knowledge, there's not that many fans of him. But the ones that do exist, I think would terrify him. Because Trey's entire shtick is that he has to be the most normal person in the entire universe. He cannot be seen. He cannot be complimented. He needs to fly under the radar. He needs to almost not exist. I don't think that he would want this sort of attention, this sort of care, since he is so adverse to taking any sort of credit for his own abilities. So I think that he would be genuinely scared that there are people that have heard of him in another universe. To his credit, I think this is also something that all of the characters would grapple with a little bit, except for maybe Vil. For having people from a complete other universe that you do not know, that know intricate details of your life, is extremely terrifying. If someone walked up to me on the street and was like, oh my gosh, you're Silvernocked. I know all about you. You're a vampire. You've been alive for like 800 years. I would be a little concerned. I'd be like, what? How? And they're like, oh yeah, no, there's just a game where I'm from, where you're a character in it, and I know all this stuff about you because the plot revolves around you. I would be kind of spooked. That would be very scary. So I do think that there's an element of that within all of this, but some people would handle it better. And I think given the degree of separation that we cannot actually interact with Twisted Wonderland, that I think I'm taking a bit of that out of my consideration. But I do think for like almost every single person, there would be a little bit of like, that's weird. Why is that like that? And there could be some other existential questions if they decided to go down that rabbit hole, like Idia. Full-on existential crisis. In fact, I'm going to put him into terrified as well. Idia categorically does not want to interact with people, period. So for him to have fans that are from another universe would be kind of cool in the sort of like video game hero aspect that we see in book 7 when he gets super excited about Ortho talking to him about being like, hey, you need to save the world. You're the only person that can do it. I think there would be a little bit of giddiness in that, but for him to then learn that they know all about him and the reason that they love him is because of X, Y, or Z, that would terrify him. That would completely take him out of any of the fantasies about being a hero, I think. Turning to Heartsable for Cater, I think Cater would be delighted. Absolutely delighted. More fans for Magicam. More followers. If he could have everybody that was a fan of his in the other universe become a follower on Magicam, his numbers would be going fantastic. His phone would be blowing up. His celebrity status could be cemented. I don't think that he would be scared of that at all, because he's so used to putting himself out there, at least putting his persona out there, right? He has the Magicam, he has the account, he's trying to kind of grift off of other people. He usually asks either Vil for photos, he tries to ask Malleus for photos. He gets recruited, I think, in one of the anthologies by Azul for social media stuff. So he's definitely in that sphere of being seen and wanting to be seen, or at least wanting his persona to be seen. And a bit, I think, genuine too. To have people out there that can see him for who he is rather than the persona specifically is, again, terrifying, but is also kind of refreshing because Cater's life has revolved around his sisters and around the cute aspect. So for him to be seen and to have the other aspects of him appreciated by other people and to be seen for that instead, I think would really help his confidence quite a bit. And I think that he personally would appreciate that a lot. Savannah Claw, I think Ruggie would be delighted for similar reasons, but Ruggie 110%, as soon as he finds this out, is putting up a GoFundMe and he's asking y'all to donate. He's delighted because now he has another revenue source. I don't know that Ruggie would necessarily care for the attention of the fans. I do think that he would leverage it in a way that is profitable for him, but I don't know that he would be super into the celebrity status per se if it's not coming with that monetary boon. If it's not coming with that stability, if he's not going to be able to profit off of it in that way, then I don't think that he would care. But given the amount of times I have heard people saying that they want to feed Ruggie and give Ruggie a hug and make sure that he's comfortable and satisfied, if he puts up that GoFundMe, he's just gonna be set for life. Y'all are gonna cover him so quickly. It's going to be astounding. 110%. This boy is gonna be rolling in it immediately. So that is where he's going. Jack, I think he would say that he's indifferent. He would actually care. We all know that Jack is a little bit of a tsundere. He does not want us to know that he cares, but his tail's going to be wagging, knowing that there's people out there that think that he's cool or that align with his moral values. People that seem to like those pieces of him, I think that he would be very appreciative of. And then, of course, he can say that he has more followers than Ace and Deuce, you know, just to put them both down a peg. If they're arguing about it, he could be like, well, actually, if that's even true, I don't know. You know what I should have probably done is looked at the fan surveys before this to see where people fall on these characters, but we're rolling off a memory. Leona, I think would be indifferent, but I think that this is another case of him being scared. It's just in a different way as Riddle. Whereas Riddle is kind of confused as to why everyone likes him all of a sudden, and he may boast his chest about it because this is NRC. It is going to be a little bit of an ego boost for everybody regardless. But Leona, I think, at least where he is now, he would be able to accept it a little bit more easily. But for the majority of the game, Leona is not in a place where this sort of affection or attention would resonate well with him. It would be something that he could keep in the back of his head, but given all of the issues that he has surrounding his self-worth and his value due to his past and due to him constantly being reminded that he's second born, you're not good enough, your magic isn't good, your magic is destructive, you're destructive, right? And all those sorts of lies that have been told to him that he's started to repeat to himself, I think it would be very hard for Leona to accept his fan base and have that affection resonate genuinely with him. I think that he would be more apt to dismiss it and act indifferent towards it. But I do think that there's a part of him that would be scared to know that there are people out there that root for him. We see this very clearly even in book 2 at the spell drive competition when he realizes Malleus is still on the table. All of his dorm members are clamoring to him and being like, no, we're trusting in you. You're leading us. You gotta help us out. We gotta put this through. Come on. You know, we have faith in you. That freaks him out. This is very clearly established in the light novel. It's also kind of seen in the manga as well. So for him to find out that he has fans, I think could scare him in a similar way. Now, he has grown since then, and I do think that he would handle it way better. Obviously, he's not going to overblood again because he found out that there's people out there that love him, but he will still feel a little shred of that fear, and so that's why I'm going to keep him in indifferent. I don't know that he's ready to accept the amount of love that Leona stans have and the amount of thirst that y'all have for this man. It's gonna terrify him a little bit. He's gonna play it off. He's gonna be cool, and there is a part of him that will accept it eventually. But right now, y'all are terrified. He's gonna handle it better. Than Trey and Idia. He's not going in that tier. But just know that there's a small bit of fear within the lion over this. Azul, over the moon. On the assumption that he's gonna be able to wrangle every single one of us into a contract, which majority of us probably will get wrangled into a contract. I cannot defend this. I think that he would capitalize off this in a similar way to Ruggie, but I think that it would be even more so. So he's also in that, I don't know if over the moon is the right placement, because he's also in that same self-worth bubble as Leona, but I think because Azul puts himself into so many different avenues and is doing so many different things and knows a way that he could capitalize off of this fame, he would probably still be more delighted. Because Azul is the businessman. He is all about connections and contacts and these contracts, right? He wants to be able to get his little foot in the door of every single person's business. Any sort of advantage he can get so that he can be at the top, that is what he wants. If he has a fan base, that is just more people he can connect to. Not only that, but it's going to be easy to connect to them because they already like him. He had to do nothing. He literally did not have to lift a finger, and all of us are following him. Our reasons may not be favorable to him if he were to learn them, but I do think that he would capitalize on all of us nonetheless. So despite everything that I just said, there's one little bit that Azul is going to hate, and that is that we know his forbidden lore. That is going to unnerve him enough where I think he would be put down into this. I can't justify putting him in Over the Moon because of this. I think there's an understanding with the people that respect Azul that we would not go out there and just blab his lore to anyone and everyone. But the possibility remains, and even though Azul is working on it, I don't think that he's fully there. Even though we know the lore, he still wins the end game. Cause bro's gonna get all of us with contracts at some point or another. Like it's not gonna matter. The end game, he still wins. So after that emotional roller coaster, he's going into delighted. Floyd, I don't really know how Floyd would react. I think that he would be more accepting of it than his counterpart, which we'll get into in a bit. I think that Floyd would find it kind of funny. He definitely is comparing himself to Jade and Azul. The three of them, he is causing chaos. He is counting numbers. He is invested in that respect. To be like, I have more followers than you guys, that's super funny. That I think would delight him. And I think the people that like Floyd would hang out, you know, I can't imagine him being scared of anyone. But I also don't really know that he'd be super happy about it either. Floyd is so hard to figure out for these types of things to know how he would react, because I feel like I know him super well because I have a friend that acts similar to Floyd, not to the extent of like terrifying everyone in the neighborhood for shits and giggles, but they do have the same sort of energy. But I also don't really understand how to think like him. So maybe he goes into nice. But he's like he's teeter-tottering. I cannot tell where he would go, but I do think that he would have fun with it. Jade. I'm very tempted to put Jade into the delighted tier, but there's also a part of me that thinks that Jade would be a little scared of the people that like him, because of a very similar reason to Azul, right? So Azul has the ability to create the contracts and like get one up on us. Jade can only rely on his ability to mentally break people down, right? That is his bread and butter because of his special magic and because of kind of how he functions, right? He's constantly saying things that are concerning, that are shocking to try to get that sort of reaction out of people. Jade fans don't care. Jade fans, we're not gonna be like, oh my gosh, what? We're gonna be like, hell yeah, Pookie Bear, do it again. I think that's gonna scare him. I cannot envision a Jade fan like legitimately being scared of him in that way, because if you're a fan of Jade, you understand what goes on with that territory. You understand the psychological torture. If he's starting to say things, you're like, huh, yep, that's Jade. I don't think that there's a way for Jade to unnerve people that like him enough because of those factors. And if he can't affect you in that way, then you are going to be maybe interesting, but also kind of a problem, because he's not going to be able to effectively deal with you. And I think that that's going to be scary for him. Jamil? Jamil's another Floyd. I don't know what to do with him, because I think Jamil inside would be like, hell yeah. Jamil has this complex about him where he wants to be recognized. He wants to have what is due to him, or what he thinks is due to him, in kind of a similar way to Leona, but there's a lot more resentment specifically towards Kalim in that dynamic, and that's a whole can of worms. But we can see throughout the story, in book 4, in book 6, in book 7, that Jamil wants that recognition. So for him to find out about this fan base and have these fans, I think would be super validating for him. And I think that he would be delighted by that. The problem is if he has more fans than Kalim, because even though they are working through their issues, there still is the formal charade that the two of them have to put on, or at least that Jamil has to put on because of his family. And if he has more fans than Kalim, I think it would just boost his ego so much, and he would not be scared of the attention like Leona is, right? Because Leona has those self-doubts. Jamil does not. Jamil knows he's good. Jamil knows that he's worth it. He just can't express that under his current life circumstances. So for him to find out that there are people out there that are just over the moon, happy and excited that he exists, I think that he would be quite delighted. Kalim, over the moon. I don't think that Kalim really cares because I feel like Kalim is so used to people liking him that if you were a fan, he'd just be like, oh yeah, come on, join the bunch, let's go. But it's not gonna be an indifference. Just because he's used to it doesn't mean he isn't appreciative of it or of the attention. But we do also see him not really paying attention to other people all that much. He just invites Idia for a party and kind of forces that on him. He has a very bad habit of doing very similar things to other people. He constantly was feeding Grimm throughout book 4, no matter what Grimm was saying, which I believe is a callback to Aladdin. I think the Sultan gives Iago crackers all the time. So I get where it comes from. But it is another instance where Kalim is just kind of a little oblivious to other people. Right? And he does have that sort of problem. So I think for him to find out he has a fan base, he's like, oh, cool, let's just all party together. And that's going to be really great. But you're kind of going to end up getting forced into a bunch of parties, which probably isn't the worst thing. It's just not going to be any sort of special emotion to him, I don't think. I think that he's, again, kind of used to it, which I think internally Kalim has a level of discernment to know what is genuine and what isn't. But I can't envision him treating any of his fans any differently, which is a good thing. Given that Kalim is so nice and so caring and so kind in most instances, I don't know. But again, it seems like a normal Tuesday type thing for him. Everything that I've been describing is kind of that. It's just sort of normal for Kalim to have people that love him, which is a blessed place to be. But I can't imagine that he'd be indifferent in truth. Or confused or anything. You'd just be like, oh, that's so cool, let's hang out. And it's just his normal everyday thing. Same as Vil. Vil's already a celebrity. Vil already has millions of fans. You are not just another number, but you are kind of what he deals with on the day-to-day. So for him to find out that he has fans in another universe, he's gonna be like, yeah, of course I do. What did you expect? I can't imagine Vil being upset or anything, but he's also not indifferent. I do think that there is an insecurity within Vil for being the fairest of all. This is a factor that he shares with the Evil Queen, but we do get to see it on display in a couple occasions. Obviously, Book 5, where he's trying to trounce Nej and trying to be the best in the SDC to cement his place in the minds of the people and to at least have a leg over Nej in that so that he can hopefully be recognized outside of the SDC. We also get to see in Rook's lab where that he can get a little jealous of his fans having wandering eyes, with Rook looking at Leona and then Vil getting a little upset about it. There are moments where Vil's insecurity kind of shows, so I don't think that he would be indifferent to his fans from our universe. I do think that he would still appreciate them, but he's gonna interact with you like he interacts with everyone else, and he's going to treat it like that. And that is very equitable of him to do. That's very equal. But I can't imagine that he'd be too much more delighted by having more fans. Maybe if that ends up putting him over Nej in terms of fandom, then perhaps he'd be a little more delighted. But I don't know the numbers. I can't run those. I don't know how many people like Nej versus Vil. So normal Tuesday for him. Normal Tuesday. Rook is hard. Rook is hard, and he doesn't inherently feel like he would be, but he is. Rook is a very private person, despite his overwhelming charisma. He looks at life in a very unique way, and I think because of this perspective, he'd still be fine with having fans. He might even be delighted to have fans. So I think I'm going to put him up into that tier. But there is still a part of him that I think would be a little concerned with people knowing deeper things about about him. In Spectral Soiree, we get a scene where Trey has to distract Sebek from asking Rook personal questions because Sebek does not understand the boundary and is asking like way too many things, and Rook is getting uncomfortable a little bit. Obviously, he's playing it off because he is Rook and he has ridiculous amounts of charisma, but Trey is able to pick up on his discomfort and kind of reroute the situation so that Rook doesn't have to answer those things and does not have to give up that information about himself. There are pieces of him that he would rather keep private, and I think if he had fans, he would be delighted to have them, but there would be a slight lingering worry that there is a prying into those aspects of his life. I think this is not as deep as Azul or Leona, definitely not, but I do want to caution that little bit. So I think that even though he is delighted, there is a little bit of hesitance because he has that ridiculous charisma. He would be able to convince you that he was over the moon, but he wouldn't be in actuality. And I think it can be very difficult to pick apart when Rook is in that discomfort because he acts so genuine almost all of the time. But I can't put him in over the moon. I don't think it's quite enough to put him in nice either. I think delighted still is the right place for him. But there is that little asterisk. Epel? I think Epel would love it. I don't really know why though, but I think that Epel would love it. I think that he might use this as a way to try to tell Vil that he knows better, perhaps, or to be like, see, they don't mind when I have an accent. They don't mind when I like barbecue. Why can't I have these things, Vil? I think that he would use it as a bargaining chip in those sorts of ways with Vil and with some of the rest of the cast. I think all the freshmen are in a competition to see who has the most fans, for sure. But Epel, I don't really know why, but I feel like he would just be so happy to know this. And I think it's because of its use in those other situations with Vil or with other people to be like, see, there's validation for the parts of himself that he really, really likes and the parts of himself that are just him. I do think that having a fan base would embolden him to make some claims and to perhaps challenge some things that he may have been wanting to challenge. It would just give him that little bit of evidence, that little boost to do all those sorts of things. So similarly, I think Ortho would be over the moon. I cannot imagine Ortho being scared at all of this. He'd be like, heck yeah. I think he's even excited for Idia that Idia has fans. I think that Ortho is more excited that Idia has fans than he has fans. But I think no matter what, he's over the moon about both situations. Ortho really supports Idia in pretty much everything, as any good little brother would do. And I think that he a little putsy every once in a while, so I can see him being very cheeky with the fact that he has fans. And so I'm gonna put him up there. Next up, we have Silver, and I think Silver would think that it's nice. I don't think that Silver is using this as any sort of puffing out of his chest. I think he's like, oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy that there are people that like me and support me. But I feel like it's a very, very innocent thing, very similar to Deuce. I don't think that Silver is using this as a bargaining chip. I don't think he's comparing himself to others. I don't think that he's using this to boost his ego or his confidence. He's just sort of like accepting of it in a positive way. Sebek, on the other hand, little more delighted than Silver is. I think Sebek is definitely in a very similar place as Ortho, in that he's delighted to have fans. He's delighted, I think, to potentially have more fans than Silver. I think that he would be, again, comparing with everyone. He would compare himself against the freshmen, but then if anybody had more than him, he would just bring up the fact that Malleus has fans and that Malleus has the most fans and how amazing it is that Malleus has fans. And you know what? That might put him over the moon. I think I have to put him with Ortho because of that. Sebek cares about himself a bit. Sebek seems to be a little more egotistical, at least for the beginnings of the game, but from books, prologue to book 7. He has a lot of character growth in book 7, where I don't think that he would be as affected by his own metrics, but oh my gosh, is this kid keeping daily counts of all the people that love Malleus? And he is using that against Leona. He's using that against anybody that tries to come for him or his lord. He is going to be over the moon about the fact that there are people out there that recognize Malleus's talent and worth and how fantastic it is that even in another universe, you like Malleus, you understand that Malleus is the best. Over the moon, over the moon. Malleus as well, over the moon. He is so excited to have more friends, guys. He's been so lonely for so long, and now there's people out there that like him, and that he's like, oh my gosh, they're not scared of me. This is great for him. I think that this is a fantastic confidence booster. I think that he's going to be way more smug, and it's going to rub a lot of folks the wrong way, like Leona. But he's just so happy that there are people out there that want to be friends. Again, I think that he's also in a boat like Silver, where this is a very innocent energy with having the fans. It's not really for his ego specifically. It is boosting his confidence, but it's not something that he's going to lord over people unless they start comparing themselves to him. Because Malleus also kind of already has fans. Diasomnia very famously has Draconians, which are fanboys of Malleus. So it's not like he isn't used to having fans, and I don't think that he ever, in canon, lords that fact over anyone. It's not like if Leona comes up to him and is like, hey, I hate your face, that Malleus is like, well, I have Draconians. That doesn't happen. So I don't think that he would be using it in the same way as maybe Ace would, or like he's not going to start a GoFundMe like Ruggie. He's not going to try to rope his fans into anything. And he's just going to treat them very nicely. And I think, again, that he would be so delighted and excited about them being from another universe and having that sort of like, oh, they still like me despite book 7. This is fantastic. I cannot imagine any other way for Malleus, so he is staying in that tier. Lilia. I think Lilia is also in the nice tier. He's like, okay, cool. I have fans. Yippee. But I don't think that he's particularly delighted. I don't think that it's normal for him, but I don't think that he's terrified either. And I can't imagine him being indifferent. I just don't think that he's on that delighted tier. I think for Lilia, this is just like yet another thing that has happened in his life, and it's cool and it's positive, and he has good emotions towards it. It's just not something that he is hanging his hope on. I do think that he would be more delighted about Silver and Malleus and Sebek having fans, and the amounts of fans that they have. I think that he's another one of these very supportive characters, but I don't know that he'd be over the moon about that either. Because again, Malleus already has fanboys. Malleus already has a fan club. Sebek having friends, great. Silver having friends, great. All that sort of stuff I think Lilia likes, but even when like Malleus gets you as a friend, Lilia isn't like jumping for joy and being over the moon. It's very hard to read him in that aspect. I think he's happy for him, but I don't think that he's happy to that extent. So I think nice is the right tier for Lilia. I definitely think that he would appreciate his fans, for sure. But I can't imagine him being in those higher tiers for whatever reason. Crowley? His fans? Oh, he'd be over the moon. He's up by Grimm. This man uses every single chance he gets to stroke his ego. He will take any compliment. And it is going on his wall. It is going to be the first thing that he reads when he wakes up. It is just, praise is his thing. Any sort of praise. I don't even think that Crowley cares if it comes from a cucumber. If he's getting praise, he's over the moon. Him having even one fan, immediately ego is bursting. Ego is completely gone. It is taking over the city. It is too big for anyone to handle. He's in over the moon. Sam? I don't know what to do with Sam. So I'm gonna put him in nice. Maybe he's happy with it, maybe he isn't. Maybe he already knows, because he has his friends on the other side. Maybe he already understands that he has fans, and so he's like, yeah, okay, nice. but not, you know, anything more than that. Vargas, completely indifferent. Vargas has already has so many fans, and he's like, haha, yeah, I'm the best. You adding to that, I don't think is gonna sway his heart any particular direction. He's gonna be like, of course they love me. I'm Vargas. That's kind of the vibe that I get from him. So indifferent, he still appreciates it, I'm sure, but I don't think that Vargas thinks things through very often. And I think part of that is his fans as well. They're just so much of a given to him. Actually, because of that, he should go in normal for a Tuesday. Yeah, it's just part of life for Vargas, you know. Crewel. I think that he would also find this to be quite nice. I don't think that he'd be super delighted by it per se. I think there is a bit of arrogance within Crewel to be like, well, of course I would have fans. Have you seen me? Do you know me? But he still feels good about it, I think. So he would be going into nice tier. Trein really has to know your motivations. There are fans out there that like Trein because he's kind of like that grandpa. He's a little bit more traditional. He's a little bit more strict, but he's kind of safe. And those that respect him as a grandpa and or respect his way of thinking, he would be in the nice tier for those sorts of people. However, there is also another demographic of Trein fans that, while we appreciate that his wife, and he loves his wife and is a wife lover, we also really like Trein like that. So I think that group might scare him a little bit. A little bit more than the Existential, and I think that there are fans within all of the boys groups that would probably scare them a little bit. There's all sorts of people in all sorts of things, you know, not everyone's going to get along, or not everyone is going to express their love in the proper ways. So I think I'm gonna put Trein into indifferent because I think that he would care about certain perspectives, but he is not going to appreciate other perspectives. So as long as you're respectful of the old man, I think that he would be appreciative of you there. Lucius, a normal Tuesday. Everyone loves Lucius. If you don't love Lucius, you're just wrong. Sorry. There's no other place for him within the tier list. He's just up. It's just normal for him. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But with that is everybody ranked from at least NRC. Do you think that your favorite boy would react favorably or unfavorably to your being a fan of them? Do you agree with where I place people and my thoughts on them, or do you disagree? Some of the folks really give me a hard time trying to get into their brain, so I am always open to seeing what y'all have to say and what y'all think as well. So if you have any thoughts, or you like this content and want more like it, please put that down below in the comments section. If comments aren't your thing, you could always like and subscribe instead. And before you go, I just have to remind you that you're amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful day.